Welcome to Tailgate Talk. It's Ritter and Tasker. Wags out again this week as he's doing his pitching coach duties for the Lake Country Dockhounds baseball team. You can go check them out. Their new ballpark they built right there in Oconomowoc. It's right by Wisconsin Harley-Davidson, right there, kind of in the backyard of it. Familiar with it off of I-94 in Oconomowoc. Wanted to wish a happy belated happy birthday to Eric Tasker.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that. It's been quite the week.
Yeah. You're like, oh, another week over.
As I'm laughing and coughing now.
Any beverages or anything consumed as part of the celebration?
You know what? It's kind of a crazy week. We are actually going and celebrating my oldest stepchild's graduation in Madison this weekend.
Okay.
So there will definitely be beverages consumed. We have like a million things that we're trying to get done, so we didn't actually get to celebrate on our birthday as we were making stuff for the graduation party and all that stuff. Yeah, we just keep thinking like there's just so many things that are coming up between the graduation this weekend. We've got like a bunch of other like family things, and then like Eric Church is coming up, and there's just so many events with our country station. And then we'll have high school graduation in June, and then it's Father's Day, and then it's like there's just so many things for the next 6 weeks. So we keep talking about that, how it's it's like, man, I just want to get out and go fishing, or I want to get out and I want to go play golf, or whatever that might be. It's like, yeah, I mean, at some point in June I probably will.
That's right. Yeah.
So,
welcome to the world of a busy summer that you get booked up with things. I know like my June is look kind of the same way. I've got some stuff planned. The first weekend, my wife's in Minneapolis to go see Eric Church. On the second weekend, then I've got a fishing tournament the third. And the fourth week, we've got something planned. And then we get like, oh, here we're Summerfest. Then once I get done with that, I think it's like a week off. And then I've got my second tournament of the season in July. So it's just like everything back to back. Then we got like, I think 2 weeks, and then we're headed off to Canada. Like man, summer's already planned. You see how this past winter, how I never got on the ice because life just completely just stacked up. And we're not alone. I think everyone gets busy and coming off of, I think our lives over the last 2 years, when we had more free time, we found other things we wanted to do. Well, now that like normal life sort of is back, we're still trying to do those things that we were doing the last 2 years. Now we're seeing just how stacked up we are. We're like,
I know.
Thought we'd reprioritize. We just like doubled up instead.
Pretty much. And, all of the events that have been postponed for the last 2.5 years now are all coming back together. So, it's like Kenny Chesney is tonight, and just, there's just so many things that have been pushed off. So then not only do we have the slate of everything that is booked for this year, we have everything that's been rescheduled as well. So it's crazy, man. But it's I don't know, I know that we're already looking forward to like our first weekend that we don't have anything to do, that we can just load up the kayaks and get out and just go and enjoy the weather. But super fortunate. It's supposed to be like, it was like 90 degrees on our birthday, so we couldn't have asked for a better day, that's for sure.
Absolutely. A lot of stuff to talk about on the show this week. Kind of the main staple of things we're going to get to is, I want to call it a controversial topic, but it's something that I think a lot of anglers are very familiar with, and it's bed fishing. And there's been a lot of arguments on both sides of it, whether bed fishing is really bad for bass, or really any fish species, in their spawning season, targeting specifically during their spawn. How does it affect them? How does it affect populations? I came across a couple of different studies that were looking at this, and some really great information to kind of just help you, I think, understand, first off, what bed fishing is, what some of the effects are, and some of the ways that you can help and hurt at the same time. So we're going to do that coming up on the show. We've got a lot of crazy things that have happened in outdoor news to cover. And really the first one, I want to start with that, because I feel like anyone that does any sort of outdoor show, any person that is a fishing fan, much like myself, and I don't just mean like a fan of tournament fishing and following like the Bassmaster Elite Series as I do, but any fan of tournament fishing and just generally how the fishing industry is, this week, I think everyone was moved, and you couldn't go anywhere on social media without tuning in somewhere and seeing the passing of Ray Scott. Who, if you're not familiar who Ray Scott is, he is the man that created BASS, the Bass Angler Sportsman Society. Along with that, he's the one that created tournament bass fishing. just an absolutely inspirational man. If you look at, you hear the whole thought of like the American dream, that anyone can do anything they put their minds to and they dream. I mean, he was just an insurance agent, so this whole idea of tournament fishing and all of it literally started on the desk of an insurance agent in Texas that like just kind of sold all these people on this idea and built it up to what it can be. And anyone, I think, that has grown up their life bass fishing and is above the age of, I'll say, 35, I'm sure at some point in their lives they remember seeing the Bassmasters and they've seen it on TV. And, you were that person that knew Ray Scott through that. Between him and Bob Cobb, they, to me, are like the godfathers of tournament bass fishing. And, to hear the news of Ray Scott passing away, 88 years old, and the things that he's done and the things that he's seen from the start of the Bassmaster Tournament Trail in 1967, the innovations that he was a huge part in pushing forward in the sport of bass fishing. You look at the kill switch that's on every boat. Ray Scott was behind that. Modern live wells, it was absolutely behind that. If you think about the first Bassmaster Classic tournament, I think it was the first three, might have even been. It wasn't catch release. That wasn't a thing. They used to bring in fish on stringers. In fact, I think it might have went beyond three. I mean, if you look back, you'll see pictures of guys coming into the weigh-in holding bass on big stringers. And he was like, no, we need to find better ways to conserve and take care of these fish that are our thing. Before Ray Scott and bringing on everything that bass means, trout were like the big pinnacle. Everyone was like, they were the cream of the crop fish. And now if you ask someone like what's the, kind of most conserved or, most prized fish, it's bass. And it's because of Ray Scott and all the work that he did in creating the Bass Angler Sportsman Society, the Bassmaster Tournament Trail. I mean, he wrote a book, the Bassmaster Magazine. He was the guy who launched that. The Bible of Bass Fishing is what the New York Times basically called Bassmaster Magazine. I think all of us in our lives that have been anything involved or thought about bass fishing have read or been subscribed to Bassmaster Magazine, watched the Bassmasters TV show, as I mentioned. Don't Kill Your Catch. That was one of the big campaigns back that he started in 1972 that goes along with what I was talking about of having aerated live wells put in tournaments. So that was the exact year 1972 when that was put in. So, all of the bass fishing community has a bit of a heavy heart, but also in gratefulness of Ray Scott. We wouldn't be here without him, and I don't want to keep beating on it and being bad about it, but I feel like anyone involved in an outdoor show, we have to mention it and have to say something about how awesome Ray Scott was and how much he'll be missed, and we would not be fishing the way we're fishing without him. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll get into immediate things. We'll get into a situation that happened involving a coyote in Texas. We're going to talk about elk in the state of Wisconsin and obviously bed fishing. Good, bad, where do you sit? More of that is coming up here next on Tailgate Talk. It's Ritter, and if you listen to any one of my shows, you know how much I really enjoy fishing and how much I enjoy fishing in Canada with Ballard's Black Island on Ontario's Lake of the Woods. Well, right now, they have a handful of select dates open for summer, and they're offering a 2-for-1 special based on single angler rates. Yeah, that's right. You've got access to multi-species trophy fishing in Canada. I'm telling you, fishing is going to be epic in 2022. Go to blackisland.com and click on their summer fishing special. That's blackisland.com, summer fishing special, and get ready to set the hook. Hey, it's Ritter, and if you follow my socials or listen to our show a lot, I'm sure you've heard me talk about how relaxing and fun archery is. In fact, my wife has joined me and got a bow of her own at the same place I did, Buck Rub Archery. They are your locally owned and operated one-stop shop for all things archery. With the area's largest inventory, they won't be undersold on any bow or crossbow. It's open to the public and the ideal place to find and test a bow before you buy. Plus, they also rent equipment, offer archery lessons, and have space for hosting birthday parties, scouts, or other events. And if you got an old bow that needs to be fixed, they can take care of you as well. Seriously, check them out off I-94 on Silverdale Road or buckrubarchery.com. Welcome back to Tailgate Talk. It's Ritter and Tasker. Don't forget you can follow us on socials at On The Tailgate. I'm at The Real Ritter, at Wisco Bow Hunting. If you want to get Eric Tasker, Wags out this week, as we were just talking about and kind of, giving our own little tribute to the great late Ray Scott, the godfather, the man of bass fishing. And there's something you actually wanted to add in with that, Tasker.
One of his famous quotes is, "A bass is too valuable to catch only once."
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And that was the whole start behind his Don't Kill Your Catch program in 72. And then that was, making sure that aerated live wells were there. And then immediately released after live weigh-ins. That's just, that's crazy that it all started from one guy.
It's awesome. Bassmaster, Bassmaster.com has a great write-up on all of the great things from Ray Scott. So don't want to beat on that too much. We got to get right into talking about some stuff right here in the state of Wisconsin involving elk, involving trail cams. But before that, I really wanted to bring up a news article that I came across that absolutely had me shocked, but also not shocked at the same time. And it's something we've talked about on this show, and that's coyotes in urban situations. There was actually just a situation happened. It was back on May 3rd, where city officials and game wardens, animal control authorities in Dallas, Texas, were called to a house where a 2-year-old boy was dragged off his front porch in the early morning hours. Apparently, the coyote came up, attacked him. The boy is okay. He was just at a nearby hospital. Doctor said he was in critical condition. He had some cuts on his face and stuff like that. I guess the police came and responded and chased the coyote into the woods, and then they went back later on with night vision, all these things, and I guess they couldn't find him. They said there was no coyotes even remotely in the area. And I know we've talked about that right on the show of coyotes coming up right in back. I mean, you've mentioned at your place, Tasker, you've had coyotes right around you.
Yeah. We can hear them. I think that was kind of towards the tail end of summer last year that we could really hear them, because we're maybe, as the crow flies, maybe a half mile from big open farm fields. And we had talked about that on the neighborhood Facebook page, that they were actually going out and trying to do some predator control. And fortunately, we have woods in our backyard, but it's all surrounded by residential. So it's kind of an enclosed kind of area. It doesn't really house anything besides birds and squirrels. But yeah, it's just, they're very, very common in rural areas. And one of the things that I saw with that was that the game wardens were suspecting that the coyote had been getting fed by local residents. And because of that, it wasn't shy being around humans then. So therefore, it doesn't have an issue going up to a small child then. And who knows? It probably had sticky fingers or something, as most 2-year-olds do. I thought it smelled good.
I remember, was it an email we got into the show back when we talked about coyotes in urban settings? Because me being here in southeastern Wisconsin, the city of Wauwatosa, where I live, they've got a problem with coyotes in one of the neighborhoods, and they were bringing in trapping and all of this sort of things to try and control the coyotes. And this one person said that, well, the coyotes aren't afraid of humans. Because I had made a comment if you're out on your back deck and it walks up, start walking toward it, it's going to run away. It's oh, no, they're not. But it's well, yeah, they're not afraid of humans because they're moving in and they're used to humans being around. They're used to living in being around humans. I, again, maintain if you get aggressive with them, they will run off. It's kind of, we brought this up, I believe, when we were talking with Eric from Okayest Hunter. Or was that with Dan, Nomadic Outdoors? And we did, a couple of great collabs lately. Was the line that if you act like a predator, they will treat you like a predator.
Yeah, it was Dan.
And that's, the way I look at coyotes. If they're coming on you like a predator, be like a predator at them and spook them. I get that a 2-year-old kid can't do it, and it's absolutely terrible and tragic that something like that happened to a 2-year-old kid. I'm just glad that the kid's okay, survived, and it wasn't worse. But, coyotes, I've been saying something that we have to find a way to coexist with. We talk about it here at the radio studio, right behind where we do this show every week. The turkeys, the deer. We talk about king, giving king updates, the big monster buck that's here. We're coexisting and having to learn to coexist with these animals. The more that our world expands, we have to coexist because we're expanding into their world.
Yeah. And it comes, the article that I'm reading from USA Today had a note in there that it comes just less than a week after a coyote attacked a 2-year-old girl in Southern California in the Huntington Beach area. So I don't know, but then, in the next line, they say, the attacks are actually, they're not just rare, they're exceedingly rare.
Right.
So who knows what those circumstances are leading up to it, but I don't know. it's not surprising that it's all young children that are the victims in these, because adults are just much more aware of their surroundings, so maybe that all plays into it too. But my question with that then is, what are the parents doing? I mean,
Right.
are the kids just out running around I mean, they're 2 years old. It's not like they're 5, 6, 10 years old, that they're sufficient enough to be outside by themselves. It's a 2-year-old.
My kid's
What are the parents doing?
my kid's 4, going to be 5, and I'm a helicopter dad. He doesn't go anywhere without me, and I don't go anywhere without him. Like, if I'm going in the house, he's not staying in the backyard without me, and vice
How
versa.
quick they
Like,
can run off so fast. I mean,
right.
kids have this like wanderlust that they'll go wherever, whenever. How can you just leave them unattended, especially at that age?
That's
Come on.
I'm with you. That's the only guess that it could be, is that there's an unattended thing with that, because you got to be paying attention. You'd have to know if there's a coyote approaching. Not to make this about judging parents or parenting styles, because Lord knows every parent's just trying to survive and get through things, but yeah, you just got to pay close attention. It's just like when you have your dogs out. Small dogs are another target for coyotes. You got to pay attention. I've got 2 smaller dogs. I'm out with my dogs all the time, and if I don't stay out with my dogs, I go out and I pretty much do a yard sweep before. Like, I don't just release my dogs into the yard with nothing. If they're going out, I'm doing a sweep, I'm going into the yard with them. I mean, I'm completely fenced in my entire yard, but you're going to check things and be safe about it.
Yeah. Do you ever see that? I know you've got little dogs. So, do you ever see that video that was going around social media where the family has one of those harness, it's almost like a life vest, but like a fully covering vest for their small dog, that they actually upfitted with porcupine spikes on the back so
Nice.
that they couldn't pick up the dog.
Nice.
I just saw that not that long ago, and I thought, you know what? That's actually, I mean, it seems excessive, but it also probably makes sense. I mean, I guess
No, totally.
if you're letting your dog out in the backyard, say, for you, for example, you've got a fenced in area where you can just let them out. I don't know, maybe it's not a bad idea to do that with them.
I mean, even fenced in isn't going to hold things back all the time. I know how many times you hear stories about coyotes getting into chicken coops, things like that. So,
yeah.
You came across something that you had sent text to me last week that I thought was really cool. That the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources was doing something new with trail cams and encouraging us outdoorsmen in Wisconsin to get involved with.
Yeah, there was an article that got posted from the Wisconsin DNR, where you can actually be a part of a collection of hosts, they're calling them, for trail cameras, where they can help monitor different areas. I don't know, I have 2 thoughts on it. One, that's pretty cool that they're trying to actually grow this community of people who have trail cameras, and actually do some collection of data on what animals are in what areas, and it helps especially for predator control to see, are there, especially when you go north, how many wolves are people seeing? And what a great way to be able to indicate that with trail cameras that are just always out there. Even foxes or coyotes or whatever that might be, but then also to get an idea. We're going to talk about it with the elk herd. I mean, that's another way that it's just another monitoring system for them. So it's pretty cool. The other side of that is, I mean, are they grasping at straws to try and get a better idea of what the herd populations are, or what some of the different wildlife populations are for different areas? Because there's been all this controversy over how many wolves are there actually, or what is the actual deer population. I mean, trail cameras probably aren't the best way to indicate how many deer there are, because there's a million of them. But with wolves, at least, being around that 1,000 number, there might be a better way for them to indicate that. But is it a ploy for them to try and hone in on the number of species that are out there, or hone in on the population of different species that are out there? I don't know. So I'm kind of both ways. Yeah, it's cool, but is it just also kind of a grasping at straws to try and get a better indication of what's out there?
It might be. I like it. I think it's just another tool. When you're trying to study anything, and I mean, let's face it, when you're setting possession limits and, just trying to figure out overall population stuff, it's all a study. It's all studying things. And the more tools you can have to get you the data that you need, I mean, I think it's great. And there's so many people that utilize trail cameras already anyway. So why not outreach to the people that have these trail cameras and ask them to help you with some information? There's not even outdoors like people that hunt. There's people that just like have trail cameras on their property just because they like to get pictures of wildlife. They're not even using them in a hunting situation. They're just getting pictures of stuff. So to even get those people to come forward with data that's going to help, I think it's cool.
Yeah, it's interesting. So it looks like there's a couple different ways to be a part of it. One is specifically for the Elk Project. So you can see that there's an outline of different monitoring areas. So Black River Falls, we know that there's a population there. Clam Lake, of course, which is where it all started. And then the Flambeau River State Forest. So there's a couple different ones that you can do for that. And then there's also just a statewide project where it looks like there's going to be 6,000 survey blocks to monitor their own snapshot of Wisconsin areas of individuals choosing. Both private and public land, which I think is nice. I mean, there's no reason to rule out one or the other. And then requirements of that is that you have, for participation, include access to at least 10 contiguous acres of public or private land, basic computer skills, and then access to high-speed internet and ability to check the camera every 90 days or at least once a year.
Okay.
So, yeah, interesting that they're trying to, do something different and engage the outdoor community. I mean, it's grown so much in these last 2 years now with people actually spending more time outdoors. This kind of opens it up to other people that aren't necessarily hunting or trappers, that they're able to engage kind of with that wildlife that they might have on their property then, and just to kind of give them exposure to it. So I do think overall it's a cool idea.
I agree. And I think like this show and a lot of people I know like embodies the whole thing of like the people that don't hunt and fish. They're still a part of the outdoors and still a part of the outdoor community. And to get them involved, I think is great. It shouldn't just be, people that hunt and fish, but people just generally enjoy nature and generally enjoy the outdoors. That it's great. You mentioned elk too. Wanted to quick throw out there. It's quickly approaching because I know people missed the deadline for things. May 31st is the deadline for the elk application. So the $10 application, obviously it's a drawing of, I believe it's 5 licenses go out. The 6th one is then done in a raffle for the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. $7 of that 10 goes directly to elk management and research in Wisconsin through the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. So it's great the work that they've done to help bring on that population of elk here. So I guess last year four bull elk tags were issued to state hunters, and then obviously they got to give them to the Ojibwa tribe for part of that thing. We've talked about the working with tribes with wolves before. Elk, the exact same situation.
Yeah, so whatever they're doing, it seems to be working. Because it's in the Wisconsin Outdoor News. I don't know if this was last month or this month. But the elk herds are growing. Cover page article is elk herds are growing. They're spreading out. Herds stand at 360 plus without the new calves being born for this spring, including, let's see here, 197 cows, 94 bulls, and then 75 calves from last year. So total, that's 366, and that's not including, any that would be born this spring then, which is pretty cool. The central zone, which is that Black River Falls herd, stands at 259 with 153 cows, 57 bulls, and then 49 calves. So they're starting to slowly grow, to be interesting just to see how quickly they can kind of, you can only have so many calves every year, obviously, so it's not like it's going to grow in a matter of 2 years, but, be curious to see where it is in 10 years. I mean, I just can't imagine, say in 15 years or in 20 years, we've got, just throw out a number without any background, 20,000 elk that are out there. I mean, it'd be crazy to just start seeing elk up north like you see deer.
I want
Because they're
that.
just so big. I know. Wouldn't that be cool, though?
As you're just saying that, what's going through my head is I would love for a time in my life for elk to be widely distributed through the state again. And I don't mean like in huge numbers, but exactly that. You could be in the northern part of the state and could potentially cross paths with an elk anywhere, that they can they will have spread out enough throughout the state that it's not like we're looking at 2 or 3 very small portions of the state where these herds stay. Like, I would love for them to be so much more widespread through, because the northern part of the state, I think, is such great elk habitat as well. Through a lot of, look at the whole Nicolay National Forest and that entire area, just how vast that is. It would be great. So it's great to see the expansion and what's happening and the growth of the elk herd, and just awesome stuff.
That's cool, though. I mean, there's people that hit deer all the time. I just can't imagine the damage that an elk would do.
Don't want to go there. Don't want to go there.
Not at all.
Right.
But yeah, so we'll have to see. There's a new research team based out of Hayward as well. You were talking about up north in the Nicolay. Up in the Hayward area, there's going to be a 3-year study that's conducted just talking about different trends with birth rates and survival rates as well. Right now, they're thinking it's about 60%. So, if it grows, 60% this year, if it for the calves, if it grows 60% this year, out of 100, that's 60. So then you add on another 60, and then soon it'll be hundreds every year being born. So I don't know. It's cool, man. It'll be interesting just to see, where it stands in like 5 years.
That's
how
awesome.
is the progression?
As we're talking about the elk herd spreading, another problem of something spreading across the state of Wisconsin that you don't necessarily think about in springtime, especially lately with the weather we've had, fires. DNR setting out a very high fire danger across the entire state of Wisconsin. I know you might be thinking, like, what do you mean fire danger? Like, it's been like the wettest spring and we had nothing but rain. Like, my mud started to dry and it rained again, like, immediately. Well, the fire danger doesn't really come from like the ground being wet or rain. If you think about what happens in the fall, things die off, winter comes through, covers everything in snow and ice, things continue to die, they sit on the ground, all that dead stuff is there. It's all on the ground. That dead stuff is the perfect tinder for wildfires. So that's why the entire northern part of the state, basically, if you go north of like Washington, if you take over like Washington County to like La Crosse County, draw a line straight across the state there. Or Ozaukee and La Crosse, I guess I should say. And you go north of there, it's very high fire danger because of exactly that. They had so much more snow, so much more things have been covered. And we were talking about just like last week in the show, the fact that there's still ice was on northern Wisconsin lakes. Like, would there be fishing openers with ice on lakes? And as that started to like really quickly melt away, you're then left with all this dead stuff on the ground. And that's causing for a really, really bad situation between dry and the heavy winds that we've had the last few weeks in and around the Midwest. That's the recipe for spreading wildfires. And I think we talked about on this show about wildfires out west and saying that exact same thing, that it's not what you would think of with wildfire. Normally out west you think of, wildfires and the big spread ones. Like, why do they spread so much? Well, it's all the dead stuff on the ground that makes it easy to catch fire and then spread onward hours. The wind just continues to push that. So DNR issued annual special burning permits to debris piles, burn barrels, and that's the biggest thing that's a culprit, I think, of some of these smaller wildfires is people that are doing burn barrels or, again, trying to rake up their leftover leaves and dead stuff on the ground and burning that, and then the wind blows that stuff. Well, now you've effectively burned very, very many miles of acreage. They say avoid all outdoor burning until conditions improve. Operate equipment, chainsaws, off-road vehicles, things like that early in the morning or late in the day to avoid sparks at peak burn hours. Secure dragging trailer chains. You ever think about that? That like sparks just coming off like trains and your chains on boat trailers. And then they say, obviously, report fires as early as possible. Dial 911 so that it doesn't spread and take out a lot of land.
One thing that you only mentioned once in there was wind. We've had so many days of high wind lately that it doesn't take much. And if there's a flame that's happening, I haven't heard it yet this year, but I remember last summer, Sherry and I were talking about doing a contained fire in the backyard. And I didn't realize until the next day that it was a no fire, no campfire.
Yeah, burn ban situation.
Restriction. As high as these winds have been, I mean, we've had days up in the 40 or mid 40s for miles per hour. It doesn't take long for that to start cruising along,
Here's the situation, speaking of wind, that I just learned recently. I've had like gazebos on my property. I've had like a big like kind of gazebo on an outdoor patio, and then I've had like a small like grill, like a gazebo thing that covers my grill. That, again, these have been there since I've owned my house. It's been 6 years that we've been there. We bought the house, I put all the stuff up, whatever. Well, last fall, and that huge windstorm we had, I mean, it was borderline derecho. Both of those pieces of furniture, so to speak, the giant, it was like a 10 by 12 like gazebo thing, and then my smaller was an 8 by 5 grill gazebo, both got like ripped out and blown across my yard and just absolutely wrecked. So I've ordered new ones. I put up the grill gazebo a couple weeks ago, and it was like the next day. It's been picked up and thrown over a fence I have in my neighbor's driveway.
Oh, no.
I mean,
people
bonkers.
have to worry about that with trampolines too.
Oh, exactly.
It's just such a flat sheet that those things will pick up. Okay, so you've got how many gazebos?
Just the two. So
just the two. Okay, do you know what this sounds like?
Go ahead.
It sounds like the barns out at Wags Farm.
How many barns?
We've
yes.
got the grilling gazebo. We've got the party gazebo.
It's more like a tent, so to speak. You know what I mean? It's like, the 4 legs, and you got like the canopy, the cover, just kind of get out of the sun, or like my grill, so it can be covered. And I can stand there while it's like pouring rain, and be covered and fine. So that's all it is. But I've been trying to figure this out because they've never had a problem with these things blowing around. They were like lightly anchored, whatever. So I set up this new one, and it gets blown, like picked up and blown in my neighbor's yard. I'm like, what? Why have I lived here all this long, and now wind is suddenly such an issue? It's never been a thing in my life. Because I then re-put up this grill gazebo, had some damage to one of the legs, contacted the company. They're supposed to be sending new stuff. And I'm like, well, at least I'm going to, stand it up. I don't want to take it apart, so I'm going to try and, stand it up and weight it and, all this stuff. I don't want to anchor it until I get the new pieces, and then I'm going to, fully anchor it down to the ground. It happened again that it got blown over. But at least this time it just, tipped straight over into my driveway. And I'm still like, what's going on with this wind? Didn't dawn on me until I realized it just the other day. My neighbor 2 doors down had some tall arborvitaes that were along his property line. He just cut down all those arborvitaes.
Were they dead?
No,
or
he just wanted to get rid of them. But now as I realize and I look, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can see a giant tunnel all the way down my block.
Right.
Of places I never had before. So now this wind, it's like this big, by getting rid of those trees, it's now created this open venturi. Those trees used to soak up a lot of that wind. It's not there anymore. So now the winds in my backyard are so much worse than they were. Which has got me worried about I like to have fires in my fire pit, and I grill over open fire and stuff all the time we've talked about in the backyard. How's that going to affect it now?
You're going to have to wait down those pups. They're going to blow away.
Oh, jeez. So, anyway, enough on wind, enough on fire. Just be safe with things. Again, if you're in the northern part of the states, no burning for right now. The DNR will issue things, as we get forward with that. But want to get into the meat of the main portion of the show this week. And this is something that is controversial depending upon what side of the fence I think you sit with it. And I'm talking about the impacts of fishing for spawning bass, bedded fish. Targeting large and smallmouth bass when they're spawning on nests is pretty popular, in the springtime. But like I said, somewhat controversial because bass are aggressive nest guards. They're protecting eggs, larvae, they're fry from all kinds of predators, including crawfish, bluegills, gobies, even other bass will eat them. As a result, as anglers who are looking to locate spawning bass, they can, obviously get there and trigger those quick strikes from bedding bass, and it makes it easy to catch them. But the question is, should we be doing it? Should we be targeting bedded bass? And this is something that a lot of fisheries biologists and scientists across North America have started to question and look at of whether it's good or bad and what the actual effects are. Because there's a lot of information that's thrown around out there of is this good? Is this bad? It takes fish off beds. The babies all get killed, this and that. Fish never return back to beds. Well, there was a study by researchers at the University of Illinois that was conducted with largemouth bass in a lake in southern Ontario. So they looked at the question of how angling pressure impacts nest fidelity, or basically the repeated use of nesting sites by bass from one season to the next. Scientists found that high catch and release angling pressure on male bedding bass caused those fish to exhibit significantly reduced nest fidelity in future spawning cycles compared to fish that were caught and released only once. Basically saying, while fish are captured only once, they return right back to that nesting site 87% of the time. And that's not just like right away. I'm saying the next season they'll return back to that same nesting area. Fish that are caught multiple times only return 27% of the time. Nearly 97% of fish that are captured only once remained on the nest and completed the parental care during that season and the next spawning season. Now, why does it matter next spawning season, whatever? Well, think about what that does. They say angling at nesting bass can cause them to avoid using those same nesting sites, which is going to move them to different areas. The different areas that they may go to find places to nest could then affect future reproductive seasons. So by taking fish off the bed, it's not necessarily just like now this season. It's the more you condition them to they are going to be caught in that situation. I mean, think about like you accidentally bump your hand on the stove and you get burned. Ow. Okay, I don't want to do that again. If you keep getting burned, eventually you stop going to the stove. And they're finding that that's the situation that's happening with some of these bass. And that's just looking at whether they're still using the same nest. That's not even looking at the fact of like, in a tournament situation where you pluck them off the bed, drive them, 20 miles across the lake and re-release them there. There has been some situations that bass have been found that, yes, they will make the trek all the way back to that nest, like within days or hours even, depending on how far it is to get back. But will they do it again the next season? Or again, will they be moved and just stay closer in the area where they were released? That's one question. Okay, so that's talking about largemouth bass. Now let's look at brown fish. Obviously, smallmouth bass, far more nomadic. They often are referred to as wolf packs. They definitely pack up much more, I think, than largemouth bass do. And fishing them on shallow beds is a huge thing in the springtime in the Bay of Green Bay. Researchers from Ohio State University examined the role of catch and release on some smallmouth in Lake Erie. So very, very close to here, I think applicable for any Great Lakes situation. They were looking at specifically the emphasis on the impacts of invasive round gobies. Huge nest problem for bass. They were using a bunch of underwater video footage to kind of observe these nests. Basically, they would put underwater cameras near bass nests, catch the fish off the nest and observe what happens while the fish were off the nest. Well, they found as soon as a male bass was removed from the nest, the round gobies would move in so quickly, and they're consuming both unhatched eggs as well as already hatched smallmouth larvae. How about this? Is going to blow your mind. The study determined gobies can consume on average 2,000 eggs from a nest before the male can return.
Wow.
So they could consume all smallmouth bass, all the offspring already born, and eggs, off an unguarded nest in as little as 15 minutes.
Holy cow.
So they say, if the number of surviving smallmouth bass embryos drives adult population size, managers should consider angling regulations that reduce interference with nesting males, thus limited the effects of round goby on smallmouth bass nests. And typically, the males are the smaller. You see two fish on a bed, the bigger one is usually always going to be the female. The males are typically always smaller. But the males are obviously the more guarded ones. The males are going to be easier ones to catch. The females are a little trickier, a little harder. So it's a real delicate thing. I mean, do you start setting seasons? I know there's a specific area within Lake Michigan in the Door County area where they actually still have smallmouth basses closed. You can't even fish them, catch and release, between, I think it was opener and then through, I believe it's the end of this month. There's a window where it's closed for even catch and release in smallmouth. Because exactly that. They're just trying to give the smallmouth that opportunity to stay on nest. They were doing studies in Florida also on the larger, Florida strain largemouth bass, found roughly the same data, around the same numbers of, again, looking at 87%, they return the next season, only 27%, if they're caught multiple times. It's kind of crazy how the correlations between Florida and Southern Ontario are showing the exact same data. So, all right, obviously, on this show we have opinions, but at the end of the day, we also say, you do you. I'm not here to tell you how to fish or whatever, but these are some of the things that you can do to minimize your impact on bass spawning success and help make sure that those fish are still around and keep coming back and keep spawning in the same areas. Going back to Ray Scott, who we mentioned to start the show, of we want to conserve the fish that we love and we like to catch. Say first, use only artificial lures. Deeply hooked bass that gobbled up that night crawler or lively minnow are much less likely to survive. I mean, their chances of survival go down so much, think about it, they could swallow it, things like that, whereas like a quick lip-hooked artificial jig or soft plastic obviously puts the fish in much better condition to survive. When you catch a bass, immediately release it and capture the location. Hauling a fish around in a live well, moving to different locations, ensures that the fish can get back in the bed quicker. I mentioned with, the round gobies, 2,000, eggs they can consume in like less than 15 minutes. I mean, they can completely clean off a bed. They also say after you catch a couple, move on. So if you locate an area with like a high density of nests and you catch a couple of fish, move on. That does two things. It allows a higher percentage of nests to stay undisturbed, but also forces you to search out new locations, which can expand your knowledge for more productive spring fishing spots as you move forward in years in the future to become a more complete angler. I like that one the best. That's like the coolest tip that I've seen that came from this study of scientists, that catch a couple, move on. And it makes you better and helps the fish at the same time.
Who's doing that, though? That's what I want to know.
That's the question.
Don't you get in a hot spot and then you just keep thinking, oh, we're just slaying them here, man. I'm not going anywhere else.
It's in the spawn time and spawning fish and bedded fish. Like, yeah, I don't like necessarily fishing. I have become far more of an offshore angler anyway. Like, I love kind of offshore fishing. I guess maybe this goes back to like my growing up in the Great Lakes. There's so much offshore fishing done there, and the years spent walleye fishing. There's a lot of offshore. Beating the bank is not my favorite way to fish. I mean, I'll do it, and you got to do what you got to do to catch the fish. Flipping at beds, again, it's not necessarily my favorite way to fish, but you got to do what you got to do to catch them. The scenario of spawn time is where I really like the catch, photo, release type tournaments.
Sure.
Or the immediately like catch, weigh, release versus the whole drag around the live well. Like, again, I love the Bassmaster Elite Series. I love Bassmaster. I love the spectacle that is a weigh-in. Of bringing the 5 bass in, getting them weighed. Like, there's a spectacle and there's something special about that I love. I see the benefit when it comes to around the spawn of not doing that because of, again, removing the fish off of the nest. I mean, we're all going to do it. We all do it. We've all done it. But to make our impact as little as possible, it's I don't know if we said on the show or if it's something that I've said before, but it's like, if I can do any little bit of thing to help, any little bit is better than doing nothing at all.
Yeah.
What say you, Eric Tasker?
Yeah, man, I definitely hear that. I mean, I think that the average fisherman, though, I think that it goes back to what I said. I feel like people I don't know that people are as aware as they could be. I mean, people who do it all the time, anglers who are getting out all the time, they're much more aware of their surroundings and the seasonality of it, and they'll probably heed that advice. But I just feel like most people, they're just going to get on a school of fish and they're just going to keep throwing them back. And in the grand scheme of things, yeah, I mean, we got to try and do whatever we can to just try and keep a healthy fish population. But I just feel like the normal person isn't going to be aware enough of what their impact might be.
That's what I think.
That would be my initial comment.
Yeah, I think really this is an issue or a thing that really only comes up to like hardcore bass anglers. To guys that fish tournaments or something like that. The average Joe Six-Pack angler that's out on the weekend to, fill a cooler with some fish and eat them, even if it is bass. The controversy, can you eat bass? That's a topic for a whole other day.
I haven't talked to Ritter before, I guess.
And I've mentioned that. I've got a video I did, the bass and the half shell on my YouTube channel. I love smallmouth bass. Like, how excited I get. I love brown fish. I love smallmouth. But also, I kind of like a little black and smallmouth bass. It tastes delicious.
Yeah. The one thing I was going to say about this with spawning is, you can find some of these pictures where you can get, people who are out, and whether that's right off the shore or whatever that might be, it's really kind of amazing what nature does.
Yeah.
Because if you get out there, it looks like a golf ball, with all the dimples.
A beehive.
I mean, it's
honeycomb.
I mean, this is just this is maybe, if I had to guess, it's probably 20 feet by 20 feet. There's probably 50 beds in this small little area. And it's just cool the way that they kind of make that work. And it's not something that you typically would stumble upon, I would say. But you can if you see these pictures, it's just kind of amazing how they build these little nests in these beds, and they're all right next to one another. So it's
Yeah.
not even like they're all, they're scattered out and somebody's trying to protect their spot. I think that's kind of amazing. It's really cool to see that.
Seeing pictures of, the picture that Tasker talking about we're looking at together it looks like a honeycomb mentioned. It's a whole bunch of little divots and holes all padded into sand. It's a bunch of bluegill beds. It looks cool to see it like that, like from above the water. With the advancements of sonar and technology, it's really cool to see and really easy to spot out with side imaging now.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
For sure.
you say that you don't stumble upon that often, and you might not, walking around the bank or kind of just like driving around, because there's wind. Sometimes you won't be able to see through the water as well. If you're not wearing good polarized glasses, you don't. But it is very clear as day when you roll by it with your side imaging that you see exactly that, just that spot of and you can even sometimes see like little bright spots inside the dimples. And that's your fish sitting on the bed. I mean, it's real clear on side imaging now.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the one thing that I thought of, that I've been seeing a lot more of that lately. Just different articles and things that have been coming up in my feeds that it's, Mother Nature's kind of a crazy thing.
Jurassic Park taught us that nature finds a way or whatever, or nature will always find a way.
Yep.
Nature will always find a way. Anything you want to quick, say or get in as we wrap up? Hopefully we can get Wags in with us pretty soon, and we'll start looking at. It's been weird, like we've done 2 shows now without guests after we're on a hard roll of things.
I know.
I mentioned we got to get John and Vince back in with us, and if you follow us on social, so again it's @on the tailgate. Vince tagged us in a video the other day. He caught his first muskie, jacked up. He's got a future as a professional wrestler in this video. Just like went out. It was like, oh, we got a fish that. Oh, it was like one of the most fun things that I've seen in a long time. But it was like, I feel this just embodies a lot of people that are getting out fishing and getting out and doing things in the outdoors. You get the first something of the year, you shoot a big buck or whatever it is, to just feel that excitement. That's what makes the outdoors. And those of us that enjoy outdoor sports, it's so cool, so cool.
And not only does he have the delivery of a WWE star, he's got the build of it too. He was posting topless like fishing photos all day on the opener. I'm like, my God, this dude is jacked, and his first comment after opening day was, "I am so sunburned." It's so funny though.
The opposite of me.
I can't wait to get out with those guys.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna get a muskie trip together. Maybe that's when we get him back on. We'll try and do a day trip. We'll go out and we'll do like a little morning, kind of throwing some baits, and then we'll record and chit chat and hang with those guys. But looking forward to that. I know for sure after we get rolling here through the elite season, we're going to get Gussie back on with us. I know they're getting ready to roll out and head off to Lake Fork, and they're getting kind of that next second half swing of the Bassmaster Elite Series. We'll definitely be getting Gussie on with us at some point in time to chit-chat about that stuff. And I think that's pretty much
I think that's it, man.
Pretty much about it.
I hope you get out soon. I know I won't be able to, but hope you're able to get out and
today.
Start using that fish finder.
Today we're getting the yak out of the maiden voyage here, and looking forward to doing some fishing. And then I think every weekend from here on, I'm going to be spending some time in the water, even if it's only got 4 hours on a random Friday or Saturday or Sunday, whether it's afternoon, morning, evening, night. I'm going to get out, get some time in. I got to get on the water because June 18th is creeping up fast. That's going to be the first tournament that I've been this year. And then July 30th is the second tournament. So, yeah, we're getting ready.
Wow.
Both on bodies of water that I know really well, which I think is a great way to get into, because we've talked about, I've done, kind of the co-angler side of things and fishing in tournaments before, but a step forward and then now go into a kayak, it's a completely different world. And so as I'm going to start stepping into tournaments, why not set myself up for success and get in ones that are bodies of water at least I'm comfortable with, that I know quite a bit about. So I will be on the Winnebago system for the second tournament. So the Bay of Green Bay or all of Lake Michigan, whatever, for the first tournament. And then Lake Winnebago, which is, another body of water I know pretty well. So we'll talk more about that as we go through things and, whatnot here on the show as we just share general stories, because I'm sure I'll have some tales of failures because, let's face it, I don't expect to do much more than to get my teeth kicked in because, that's what happens.
Well, man, I'm mostly just excited to hear how your first day goes out with with the electronics.
Yeah, I gotta get the full water test down on the whole new build that I have, which I shared up on the page. I had a lot of people reaching out to me like, hey, like you said, Tasker, you should build one of those. You start building those and selling them. So I don't know, maybe I've got a business plan. Maybe I'm gonna start making my ultimate kayak crate tackle power hub. I think I have a name for it. Is what I gotta come up with. I gotta come up with a name. If you've seen it and you can come up with a name, why don't you let us know on socials @on the tailgate. Also, don't forget you listen to this on the iHeartRadio app, the TalkBack feature. You'll see a microphone right there. It should be on the play screen, whatever you go back. There's a little microphone. You click that. You can send us a message, like an actual audio voice message, and we may play you back here on the show. Love hanging out with you, chatting all things outdoors, just hanging around, shooting the bull, around the tailgate, and that's obviously the name Tailgate Talk.
I see what you did there.
Yeah. Follow us on socials @on the tailgates. I'm The Real Ritter, as in like fishing reel, REEL. @Wisco Bow Hunting is Eric Tasker. So until next week, it's going to wrap it up. It's Tasker. I'm Ritter. Wags out. We'll catch you on the next one. Tailgate Talk.